If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. Seems every week I get a few people who tell me that they were unsubscribed without their permission. And of course, be sure to give the video a like. The white supremacists hate that. Now, that said, because of the fact that the former slaves of this country, the descendants of American slaves, the foundational black Americans, the survivors of slavery, those of us who emerged from the killing fields of the American South, because of the fact that we represent a sizable portion of the population, we also represent a political threat to the stability of white supremacy. It's a con game. It's a lie. And what they're terrified of is that these black folks can bring the lie crashing down. So that's the reason why white supremacy understands it is their top priority that we, specifically we, be held in complete and thorough powerlessness. We have to be kept in a state of utter powerlessness. And the way that you make sure that people are powerless and remain powerless is to confuse their internal politics. When it comes time for the former slaves to be talking amongst themselves, you gotta send in some fork-tongued weasels. You gotta send in some duplicitous, traitorous rhetoricians to start spouting lies. Why, we don't need to be having nothing of our own. We needs to be integrated, don't you know? Appealing to the former slaves' insecurity and feelings of inferiority. Why, you should be applying for a position in the big house with Massa. And that's the reason why the white media has invested in a bunch of Negro wranglers. When you see these black folks on white media outlets on cable and often on the internet on the more sizable platforms, that's because you got some Negroes who are being paid by white power to say whatever's in white power's interests. They pay very well for that. And unfortunately, we got to be honest, there is a ready pool of buck dancing, bed wenches, Becky chasers, zaddy worshippers, fakers, frauds, phonies, fools, suckouts, sellouts, and simps who are ready, only too eager, to sell the soap and to carry water and to spout the lies for white supremacy. Sadly, there's no shortage of them, but recently there's begun the beginnings of a group of black folks who are going to speak the truth fearlessly. And this has presented white supremacy with a big problem, but it's presented white supremacy's black bootlicks with an even bigger one. These Negroes who the white media trots out, who are supposed to be dictating the opinions of the former slaves, well, what they found in the past was that there happened to be these people who were saying things counter to the white media narrative. And at first it was a matter of, well, these black folks, they just don't know what's good for them, so we're going to go ahead and keep saying the lies, and they'll forget all about these angry black folks online. And now what's happened is what they see is we're crushing presidential candidates, and we're destabilizing the political status quo. And they don't have an answer for that. And they're looking around and going, man, you know, we've been out here doing the same old routine that we've been doing for 50, 60 years now and telling black folks to be scared, be scared, be scared. And for some reason, the black folks aren't listening to us. Gee, whatever happened to all those masses of black folks, especially young black voters? Whatever happened to all the young black voters who used to listen to our cock and bull lies? Well, they're over here with us, stupid. They're over here with the new voices of black media. That's where they went to. Oh, they didn't just vanish into thin air. They migrated away from white media's lies and toward the black truth. That's where those young black folks are at today. That's who they're listening to. What we're doing is we're smartening our people up and standing them up. You see, if you had these clowns on cable TV, if these Negro wranglers whose job it is to corral the black vote, to corral all of these black eyeballs and get them listening to the white media message, if these guys were truly effective, there would be no black media. Nobody would be listening to us. They certainly wouldn't have a problem figuring out where all those young black voters and all those young black eyeballs disappeared to. We are facing the white media and their black bootlicks with an existential crisis. And as TBA has always told you, this is good. Now, don't go kidding yourself. These guys have been watching us for years and years. I know for a fact that NBC in particular has been keeping tabs on me over a decade now, ever since my now classic video, Blackface in Yellow and White, which NBC did a segment on. Basically, a crib noted what I said. They called themselves doing their own blackface segment. I'm sitting here going, dude, it's obvious that you took all of your notes from me. So you got the white media. They've been seeing what the hell we've been saying for over a decade now. They've been watching. And the black bootlicks are trying to put a pretty face on things. What, us worry? That's what they've been doing while they're wiping butter biscuit crumbs from their filthy mouths. You see, in order to control a large group of people for the long term, you have to disturb and disrupt their internal politics. You've heard that term before, being a disruptor. Well, you got to send in these intruders. You got to send in these Negroes who have been completely and thoroughly co-opted by white supremacy. These individuals who have defected to the side of white supremacy. You got to send them in so that they can start spouting lies and they can start using white supremacy's influence, often monetary, and for the sake of trying to get us off track and off cue and get us off code. But what we also taught you in the black media was that when black folks decide they're going to disengage from this sick, evil system that clearly is never going to do anything for us and decide that we're going to pursue our interests outside the ballot box, well, you'll be amazed what kind of progress you can make. Look at the laws that have already been passed regarding punishing the police. See, that's what happens when you make it clear. We'll do stuff outside that ballot box. The ballot box is part of a system of control. The ballot box happens to be an agreement among everyone that whenever there is any sort of dispute, whenever there is any sort of difference of opinion, whenever there is any sort of political conflict, we do not settle the conflict through bullets. We settle it through ballots. We hold a vote. And whatever the outcome of the vote is, we all agree that we will abide by the outcome of that vote, whether we like it or not. But what happens when you have a majority of people, or at the very least, you happen to have a specific minority who is consistently targeted by those policies that come out of those votes? And no matter what the outcome of the vote is, it always becomes a trick bag meant to attack us. Even when we win the election, the policies never actually get enforced. You can have as many elections and as many judicial rulings in your favor as you want. When it comes time for the policies to actually be enacted to benefit you, it never happens. When it comes time for the laws to be enacted to punish those who harm you, it never happens. So what occurs then? Of what use is a ballot when it doesn't produce anything for you? And you should be afraid too. You better keep voting for these Democrats like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Barack Obama and the rest of these fools who insult you and attack you and who will gladly sign executive orders to embolden the police to kill you, but they're not about to even say one word to tell the police we will prosecute you for harming a black person. They don't do that. Now you take a look what's happened in the last few months. Has the balance of power in the House of Representatives changed? Have the Democrats recaptured the Senate? And yet, for some strange reason, there's laws getting passed now. And a few of them are actually getting enforced. No elections required. So what does that tell you about American democracy? What does that tell you about all these black mouthpieces, these Negro wranglers that you've been seeing on cable TV telling you that the only thing to do is to vote? You need to vote if you want things to change. We got things to change without a vote. But you're supposed to be scared. They need you to stay scared because when people are afraid, they're not thinking. Well, let me tell you something. There's an old saying, scared money don't make money. You see, white supremacy understands that too. When you're scared, you're not going to be putting forward a substantive threat to your opponent. Scared money don't make money. And scared opposition is weak opposition. And that's the reason why it was important that the black media put a spine into what until recent years have been a largely spineless people. We know what our interests are and we stand on it. And we're not asking anyone's permission. We're not holding an opinion poll. We don't give a damn if somebody calls it divisive or anything else. In fact, divisive is what we want. We're trying to separate ourselves from the clutches of white supremacy. We're trying to separate ourselves from white supremacy's non-white operatives. Because there's a hell of a lot of these folks, some of the worst white supremacists out there are not even white people. So yes, divisive, that's fine by us. We're in the clutches of an unjust system. We're in the clutches of an anti-black monopoly. And that being the case, damn right we're trying to divide ourselves from them. Yes, so the rhetoric will be quite divisive because that's what we need. And as you see, it's working. Now, just to give you a case study, recently you've had Bill Barr, the Orange Man's Attorney General, the nation's top cop with a KKK, and he's talking about the Jacob Blake case. Now keep in mind, the FBI, the Justice Department, they have not completed, in fact, they've barely begun. They've only just started the investigation into the attempted murder of Jacob Blake. They've only just begun the investigation, and as we've seen with George Zimmerman and the murder of Michael Brown and all these other cases of white supremacists with or without badges who have murdered black people, the Justice Department needs something like 8 months to a year in order to complete their investigation. Remember? 8 months to a year. That's what they've been telling us for the last 7 years, since 2013 when Trayvon Martin was murdered. Why, it takes 8 months to a year. Don't be expecting anything soon. We have to go over everything, just everything you see, and that's going to take months and months and months, several months. Well, here we are after only about a week, and Bill Barr's saying Jacob Blake was committing a felony. He was armed and committing a felony. Now, Bill Barr is not leading any sort of investigation. He's not the lead investigator in this case. There has been no conclusive report issued by the Justice Department. There hasn't even been a press conference. The investigation, to the extent there's supposed to be one, has only just begun, and yet you got the Attorney General saying, oh, we've already got a conclusion here. Now, there are a lot of folks who are getting their panties in a bunch about it. I don't know why. Of course, he offers no evidence that Jacob Blake was committing a felony or armed, but he didn't have to. That was the entire point of what he was saying. The white supremacists, the casual racists, the voters who Rahm Emanuel and Joe Biden are attempting to get the attention of. That's the vote who they and Donald Trump are fighting over. Bill Barr is sending them the message, yeah, we know what happened to Jacob Blake was murder, and we're reasserting the right of the white supremacists to kill black people with impunity. This is us pushing back. We're sending a message, yeah, we know it was murder, and the right of a white man to kill a black man is going to be forcibly reasserted. That's the entire point of what Bill Barr was saying. But tell me something. While you're busy being justifiably disgusted with this bloated racist pustule, boldly telling you, yeah, we haven't even finished any sort of report, but we can tell you now the nigger got what he deserved. While he's busy saying that, tell me something. How is Bill Barr's blatant attack on Jacob Blake, how is that any different than Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, and how they kept telling you that, well, there's nothing we can do about the murder of Trayvon Martin? Well, Mike, don't you know that Michael Brown, the FBI claimed that Michael Brown did struggle with the murderer, Darren Wilson, for the gun. Well, what proof do you have of that? Well, the proof is Darren Wilson said, and we're taking his word for it because he's white. How is that any different than Bill Barr? The only difference between Lynch, Holder, and Barr is that Barr is honest enough to not pretend that there's any sort of investigation. By the way, Wolf Blitzer didn't ask that. The point that I raised that, hey, hold on. Your investigation has only just begun, but you're talking as if it's already concluded. Do you have a report? Do you have any sort of final report that we can go over so we can see all of your evidence? Aren't these things supposed to take 8 to 9 months to 8 months to a year? You see, the very basic point that I just got through raising is one that Wolf Blitzer didn't. But then again, that's what the Caucasian Nazi network is about. They understand that their job is to play along with the administrative arm of white supremacy. That's their job. Their job is to certify, whitewash, and to authoritize the lies that white supremacy tells. So, of course, Wolf Blitzer was going to go, okay, if you say so. Well, we're going to play along with, we know there are black folks in the audience looking and going, that's a pack of lies. And we'll pretend like, oh, well, Bill Barr, are you sure? Well, okay, if you say so. No tough questions. We don't want anyone doubting you too much. We don't want to give the idea that people should be taking you to task. So we're going to ask one follow-up question and drop it at that. And that's what they did. But Bill Barr is being honest enough about the fact that clearly there's no investigation. He obviously is making the point that, yeah, this is a political statement at black people. This is a political statement that we're aiming at black people. Oh, of course, we're not looking at this as any sort of crime that's occurred. Oh, we'll tell you right now. No, we ain't looking at this. No, the nigger got what he had coming. How is that different than Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch when they told you time and again that, well, Trayvon Martin, there's not enough for us to draw any conclusions. Michael Brown, well, the white cops said that Michael Brown struggled with him for the gun. Yeah, he was shot 25 feet away from him, but that was a struggle, don't you know? How is Bill Barr's refusal to investigate any different than Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch's refusal? A rude white man refusing to investigate the murder of a black person is no different than a polite black person, two polite black attorney generals refusing to investigate. And for you to get upset about that, that's a distinction without a difference. Well, the difference is, though, we know better than to expect anything from a worm like Mike Barr. We know that this scumbag's not going to be doing anything, but what's Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch's excuse? This is what I'm talking about. Look, yes, it's disgusting. Yes, we know it's racist. Yes, we know that this is actually a racial attack on black people meant to tell black folks you better stay in your place because we'll be killing you in the streets. Or rather, okay, maybe you guys are fighting back, but anytime that somebody kills one of yours, we're going to be protecting them and we're going to make sure that they have legal immunity to do so. We'll be attacking you if you defend yourself, but if somebody kills some black person in cold blood, you can have it on video all you want. Far as we're concerned, we're not prosecuting. We're sending the message. You've got de facto legal immunity to kill a black person anytime, anywhere. But that didn't start with Mike Barr. Started with Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch. With Barack Obama, black folks kept banging their heads against the wall, hoping for something that would never happen, hoping that this guy was going to do what he said he was going to do, that he was actually going to do his job, but he didn't. And now you got the white media trotting out Joe Biden and Kamala the cop Harris and telling you that you need to be voting for them. And because of the fact that the black media has been spending years, I in particular began the offensive against Kamala Harris first. September 2017, I posted my now classic video, The Deadly Deception of Kamala Harris. I could see what she was doing when she made it to the Senate. It was obvious to me that this woman was angling to be the next Barack Obama. She was copying everything that Barack Obama had done, getting into pointless spitball fights with Republican administration officials at the hearings, not doing anything, not going anywhere with it. She just did it so that she could get a little something going and kind of shoehorn and force her way into the news cycle. Barack Obama did the same thing with Bush administration officials back in the early aughts. When he finally got appointed, because that's what happened. He didn't get elected to the Senate. He got appointed. He got the golden nod, and that was that. So when he made it to the Senate, what he started doing was getting into pointless arguments. Not meant to go anywhere, just a matter of, hey, the news cycle is going to report on this because usually these hearings are a snore fest. I'm going to start an argument just for the sake of doing it. Kamala Harris doing the same thing. Oh, don't worry about doing anything for black folks. Barack Obama didn't do anything for black folks, and Kamala Harris won't have to either, except what they realize now is the political climate, especially among black people in this country, is very different now than it was 12 years ago. That's what they're realizing now. A tad too late. And their Negro wranglers, their black bootlick mouthpieces, these guys are not going to change that equation. All you have are a bunch of dumb black folks on cable television, the same usual suspects telling themselves, well, black people think this, and the reason for that is this, and all that's happening now, they have given rise to a cottage industry of debunking them. That's what we do. They tell the lies, and we come and tell you the truth. And the more that we keep telling the truth, this becomes a self-reinforcing mechanism. And that brings us to what's been happening the last 24 hours. Now, as I'm sure that a lot of you have noticed, well, apparently one of my Twitter posts seems to have run afoul of one of the white media's Negro wranglers. Now, there's a few of these folk who have basically stuck their heads out of the sand every once in a while whenever something we say is particularly that you can tell when they've had some white producer or some white editor who's told me, you see what's happening here? They've made a joke out of you. Well, actually, these clowns have made a joke out of themselves, but still. Yesterday, on my Twitter feed, I saw that MSNBC with Mika the Bigot Brzezinski was posting Joe Biden's new ad aimed at black voters. Now, of course, you already know what Biden's ad is about. It's the same empty talking points. He wasn't saying a damn thing. Empty words, many of them weasel words, talking about reforming the police. How are you going to reform white supremacists? In Los Angeles, you got the sheriff's department overrun not with one gang of white supremacists, but several gangs of white supremacists. How do you reform a bunch of dyed-in-the-wool, dedicated anti-black racists who have spent their entire worthless lives attacking black people, lying about black people, sending black people to prison on phony baloney charges, and killing black people? How do you reform that? No details, by the way. They just say reform, police reform. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Nothing. That's what it means. You see, the black media has been putting the proper vocabulary out there. We're not talking about reforming the police. We're talking about punishing the police. So here you've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris with their latest propaganda ad talking about reforming police. If you don't get the hell out of here. Oh, we're going to condition federal funds. Oh, so what that tells me is they've been listening to stuff that I've been saying. Stuff that the rest of the black media has been saying. I've been banging that drum about, hey, is Biden going to do what it is the Republicans keep saying? We're going to condition federal funds on the states doing X, Y, Z. But that's not what I said, though. What I said was that Biden has to do what he did with his 94 crime bill, you know, Biden's law, where he put $13 billion as a down payment if the states would change their sentencing statutes and make them as harsh and draconian as the ones that Biden had instituted at the federal level. He put a $13 billion bounty on black people's heads because that's who they were going after. They weren't going after white supremacist street gangs. They weren't going after white supremacist child molesters and meth dealers. They were going after black people for marijuana, going after black people for loitering. That's what they were going after black people for. So we need to see $60 to $80 billion, and the states being told you can only get this $60 to $80 billion if you change your local and state laws so as to make sure that police have no qualified immunity. If police are charged with assaulting a person, especially a black person, that's 25 years off top, automatic. If somebody dies in your custody or you kill them, that's automatic life sentence. And if anything in your social media, if anything in your associations or your behavior even hints at anti-black racial bias, that's death penalty. And you can only get this $60 to $80 billion if you change your laws to put them in line with what we're proposing at the federal level. That's not what Biden's doing. Instead, it's conditioning federal funds. Well, we think that there should be conditions for federal funds. There's always conditions for federal funds, stupid. That ain't nothing new. Well, what's the condition? Is the condition punishing the police? You have to punish the police if you want this federal money. Nope. What's the conditioning? They don't really say. There are conditions, but, you know, basically, we're going to say something about use of force. Well, what are you saying about use of force? Can you say some specifics? Well, we'd like to see the state, please. Whatever they so-called recommendations are, you know there's going to be stuff that either A, is already on the books and not being enforced, or it's going to be things that have so many loopholes they might as well not even be proposed. You see, the black grassroots has been leading the charge, requiring a policy shift, one that puts the emphasis on punishing the police and letting the states know that unless you're going after the thugs with badges, you'll be strangled for money at the federal level. In other words, we're putting a bounty on the heads of thugs with badges. That's the shift, the policy shift that is required. The police have to understand that the federal government is putting its shoulder to the wheel to put them in prison, making sure that they get punished and they get the hardest time there is. You also get other insincere garbage in their ad about reining in qualified immunity. Now, the black grassroots has never said any mamby-pamby lie about reining in qualified immunity. We said to get rid of it altogether. We never said rein it in. We ain't looking to rein in qualified immunity. We're looking for it to be eliminated. That's what the demand is. But you see that this ad basically is crib noting what the black grassroots has been saying. And the whole idea is, this is going to change the conversation because now that we're putting this out there, it's going to sound a little bit like what those angry black people are saying online. And this is going to start to get those young black voters looking in our direction. And they're going to stop listening to people like that Professor Black Truth and that TBA and that Tariq and the rest of those angry black people online. They're going to start listening to us again. We're going to start sounding reasonable. This is the game that they try to play. If they cannot beat you, then try to see if they can imitate you until they get enough people looking in their direction where they can do the bait and switch. And then hold police accountable. Again, they don't say what that means. Hold police accountable? What the hell does that even mean? Because Kamala Harris says that she's been holding the system accountable, but she never tells you how. She never exactly shows you how. And the more you're looking, you go, I don't think she's been holding anything accountable. That's because she hasn't. Hold police accountable. Accountable to whom? Whom are the police being held accountable to? They don't say that the police should be held accountable to their victims. They never admit that the police are staffed by and run by white supremacists. That is a crucial confession and admission that must be given. See, the Trump administration says, Mike Barr says there's no racial bias in the system. There's no systemic bias. There's certainly no white supremacists. This is just a bunch of lies. The system is not at all. Meanwhile, he's doing the most to protect as many white supremacists as possible. And you have the casual racist, read white moderates who see that. And many white leftists, by the way, as far as they're concerned, well, we just want to make sure whatever's going on in these streets doesn't go too far. We need to make sure that you have the willingness to stamp down on those Negroes because what's happening is they're starting to do some uprisings. They're fighting for their power and they're taking power in their own hands. And we need to know that Trump's gonna put an end to it. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are saying, hey, we'll put an end to it too. They never admit that the police are staffed by and run by white supremacists. They never say the words. You can't fix the problem when you refuse to even admit that the problem exists. No, I'm afraid that Biden and Kamala are going to go down in flames. And the main thing they're going to go down in flames for is until they can stand out in public and make it where the main plank of their policy platform is we acknowledge that the system has white supremacists not merely who are staffing it, but who are running it. We acknowledge that the white supremacists are the ones who are in charge of the system. They are not merely patrol officers. They are not merely some low-level bureaucrat. They happen to be the police captains, police lieutenants, police chiefs, the sheriffs. They also happen to be these agency heads. These investigators, they happen to be the people who are operating and running the system. And that being the case, we're going after it. We're waging war on the white supremacists at the systemic level. But they can't say white supremacists. They can't say white supremacists when it comes to the police. And they certainly cannot say there is a widespread systemic overrunning of white supremacists throughout the system. They've taken the damn thing over. The white supremacists have taken it over. You see, Donald Trump will say that, the deep state and a bunch of communists and socialists and a bunch of nigger lovers, and they've overrun the system, and that's what I'm at war with. I'm at war with all these nigger-loving communists. All these nigger-loving communists, they're in charge of the system. And they're trying to take away your white supremacist victory, and I won't let the nigger lovers do it. Meanwhile, you look at Biden and Kamala, they don't say white supremacist even once. In other words, there is no clear distinction between Donald Trump, his position, and the position of Kamala and Biden. Donald Trump makes it clear that he's at war with black people. Well, who's at war with the white supremacists? Not Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They can't even say white supremacists. Who are they scared of offending? They're scared of offending the new would-be Democratic base. That's why I posted on Twitter that video, Rahm Emanuel talking about how the Democrats, he's simply confirming what we've been saying all along, that the Democrats are trying to pivot now since the black vote, the traditional base of the Democratic Party, the black vote is broken bad on them. Well, now we need to trade these niggers in for a new base. And what's that going to be? Well, it's going to be these white moderates. It's going to be these white centrists, the people who traditionally vote Republican. Whoa, so your new Democratic base is going to be a bunch of Republicans? Well, it's all about propping up white power, you niggers. You guys are no longer going to sit on your hands and take this abuse, so we got to trade you in. If we can get over on you, we'll damn sure try it. And you got Kamala Harris's little punk supporters online amening that. I mean, hell, who the hell needs Donald Trump saying that black people are all thugs? Kamala Harris's supporters, and these are supposed to be black folks, by the way, they're saying the same crap. You've had both Jason Black and Tariq Nasheed carpet bomb with these idiots saying, well, all these black folks, they did commit the crime, Well, damn. Who needs Mike Barr to get out there and cheerlead for the ruthless killings of black people without any sort of punishment when you got Kamala Harris's black supporters doing it? Notice that Biden and Kamala Harris's ad does not mention the huge numbers of black people who have been illegally or unjustly incarcerated because of Biden's 94 crime bill that he wrote. There's no mention of sentencing reform. You see, they're trying to make sure that what they say doesn't bring about an instantaneous revulsion, that people don't immediately have a gag reflex and go, oh, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit because, hey, Biden, weren't you the one who put all those black folks in jail? So they stay away from that. They stay away from things that people will look at and point and say, wait a minute, Biden, you did all that. And Kamala Harris, you did all that. All these killer cops on the streets, you're the ones who have been supporting them. So their policies are all, even if you want to be as charitable to them as possible, you have to be a damn fool to do that. But even if you want to be as charitable to them as possible, you can't deny the fact that their proposals are assiduously careful not to come anywhere near Biden and Kamala Harris's positions that have put them in so much hot water with black folks. In other words, they're making it very clear. We're not stepping away from all of this anti-black persecution that we've been doing. We're not stepping away from those positions. You're going to get some empty lip service from us, and we're going to see whether or not it works. And we're going to have some black mouthpieces get out here and cheerlead it and go rah, rah, rah. So don't expect any talk about making sure that black people who are on trial must have a jury comprised of at least 30% black male jurors. You don't see them saying, you know what, in recognition of the fact that black people have overwhelmingly all white juries and the racism that black people face in the injustice system, we're going to institute that if you're black and you're on trial, the jury must be comprised of at least 30% black male jurors. They don't even put that out there. No talk about examining judges' records to see which judges are giving disproportionately hard sentences to black defendants while giving a slap on the wrist to the white offenders. You got a black person on trial, that's 90% of convicting them right there. With a white person, on the other hand, there's all kinds of trap doors, safety nets, and all sorts of escape hatches that they have in the system to make sure that they never see the inside of a prison cell. System's already been prearranged. The prosecutors and the judges already have they already are on code. That when a white person's accused of a crime, if it's a felony, don't worry, it's going to be busted down to a misdemeanor by the time they get to court. And if they get convicted, the judge will throw it out. If the judge doesn't throw it out, don't worry, they're not going to do much time at all. Jeffrey Epstein and Brock Turner were not exceptions to the rule. They were just the couple of occasions when people actually paid attention. Jeffrey Epstein and Brock Turner are not exceptional at all. They are the norm. But the white media wants to pretend as if, oh, such a thing has never happened before. Oh, how could these guys got special treatment? The hell they did. I did an entire series, White on White Crime, where I pointed out to you case after case after case after case after case of white offenders who the exact same ritual played itself out. You had some individual with a rap sheet long as your arm. He's been in and out of trouble with the law since he was in Pampers. This guy was known to the police in 5 different states. When he finally gets arrested for something, usually it's something so heinous and unbelievable that it belongs on an episode of some true crime show on A&E. Either that or it belongs on the Discovery Channel because of how brazen and amazing the crime was. And then what happens is the prosecutors immediately take the felony charges and knock them down. They'll say felony charges when the person is first arrested so that the headlines, people will remember the headlines. Oh, he was charged with first degree this, first degree that. And then as soon as the headline passes the very next day, they immediately drop the charges to a misdemeanor because that's the point they have to reach. When it comes to white offenders, it can never be a felony. It must be a misdemeanor. And so what'll happen is the judge will say, time served, there you go. We've been telling you about that case after case after case. But again, you don't have anyone pointing out saying, wait a minute, the cops and the judges must be examined. The Justice Department has to make sure that we catch these cops who are clearly deciding that black people need to be locked up whether they did the crime or not. Black offenders and white offenders both use marijuana at the same rates, and yet they ignore the white offenders and go only after the black ones. Police departments who do that have to be strangled for funding. You have to point out, we see what you're doing, we're cutting your federal funds immediately. And then with the judges, hey, we've gone over your records. We're going to start examining you guys and seeing whether or not you're giving the same sentences to black defendants that you give to white offenders. Or are you deciding that the black people, no matter how minor the charge, you're going to throw the book at them, and the white ones, you're letting them go no matter what? And if we find out that there is jurist bias going on, if we find out that there's jurist nullification going on, we're going to bring charges against you. We're getting you out of there. Nothing about that. Nobody's speaking these words. Nobody's saying that. Nothing about punishment. Nothing about treating white supremacy in the injustice system as what it is, systemic. And Biden can't understand why black folks are paying him no never mind. But then again, with Cop Mala as his running mate, nobody expected any differently. So you see what they're doing. Which, given their track records, you better believe that Biden and Kamala are going to do whatever the police unions tell them to do. Not that they're going to need much prodding or much prompting in that regard. As I've always told you, the white media's job is not to inform or to entertain. They don't see themselves as being in the business of entertainment. They see themselves as being in the business of mind control. So that's the reason why they didn't bring Kamala Harris or Joe Biden on to answer for this ad, this pack of lies and deflections. Instead, MSNBC, Mika the Bigot Brzezinski, who, by the way, I need to remind you, this woman made a big show out of how incredulous and how ridiculous she thought it was that people were outraged over the murder of Tamir Rice. You go back online, you find that video of Mika Brzezinski talking about the murder of Tamir Rice. She made a big show out of rolling her eyes, and here she is sneering her mouth, and she's just making a big show that why are people outraged about this? And you know, the police said that he took the orange tip off of that toy pistol that he had, except then when the video came out, and she wasn't alone. Joe Scarborough, that piece of trash, he was right in there with her, amening her every word. They were both in agreement that we got to make it clear that when a 12-year-old black child is killed, that's not a crime. We're talking about a child who was murdered. This is who Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough are. And this is who MSNBC is, because they love these two stinking behinds. So Mika Brzezinski, she can never be forgiven for making excuses for and for showing her absolute indignation that black people are outraged at the murder of a black child. It was only when the video came out that all of a sudden Mika the Bigot and Joe the Jackass Scarborough, all of a sudden they fell quiet, but they didn't ever renounce their words. They never said, you know what? We said some reprehensible stuff about the murder of a child. We know that we can't be forgiven for it, but we gotta be, at the very least, we gotta say that we were wrong. And at no point do they ever investigate the police. That template remains in place. The attempted murder of Jacob Blake, nobody's talking about the cop who tried to kill him. Nobody's talking about that clown. Nobody's talking about that bastard. Nobody's saying, hey, let's take a look at this guy's record. What do we know about him? So what did that tell you about the white media? This white media wall of silence is in full effect. The entire point is, no, you niggers have made too much progress at forcing the system to punish the police. You've come too close to that. We're not talking about that anymore. We're not talking about police records anymore. They kill some black person, it's going to be radio silence. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ain't talking about it either. So this ad, of course, is a pack of lies. Of course, it's a joke. And they're not going to bother to bring out Biden or Kamala to defend it because they know it's indefensible. So instead, they bring on one of their handful of dependable Negro puppets. In this case, Jason Johnson, one of the usual suspects, who enthusiastically claps like a trained seal. And he's just so excited and declaring that this ad hits the mark and it speaks to black voters' interest and black voters are going to like, why, this is exactly what the black community's been saying and it speaks to black people's interests and our aims and this is what we need. That's the entire point. It's a white media TV show. That segment was not information at all. It was a TV show. It was a little political skit. No different than what you would see on Saturday Night Live. And the name of this skit, the dramatization of this little fraud, call it Biden and Kamala's phony racial justice ad wins over black voters. Because that's the point. They're setting up a little scenario. I told you about how Roger Ailes pioneered that kind of propaganda back in the 60s with Richard Nixon. You show the candidate doing something, and then you bring on some bought and paid for individuals who are supposed to be the target demographic and have them saying, I'm won over. So effective. This is exactly what I wanted to see. I am won over. I cannot wait to go vote for this person. And what's supposed to happen is the audience is supposed to look at that and go, well, man, they're making progress. They're winning black folks over. This ad is really working. Man, that was really effective. Well, I guess I should too. Monkey see, monkey do, right? That's what the point of this is. They're putting on this little dramatization and they're going to see if you fall for it. Well, only if you're really stupid. Now, of course, Mika the bigot didn't bring on any black voters to give their opinion of it. They bring on someone who they have on very much frequently, somebody who they know that they can depend on to applaud the Democrats. It's predictable and pathetic, and it fools no one. But black media is establishing a new standard, one that should have been in place a long time ago. You cannot talk about us without having to talk to us. And white supremacy cannot afford that. What they need are some dependable black mouthpieces. Folks who white supremacy has on the payroll. Are you somebody who a white university is paying? They don't put it on somebody from a white university because that's considered to be prestigious. They put them on because it's a matter of this Negro. The only thing he's caring about is getting tenure. So he's depending on white power to make sure he has a paycheck. Or maybe you're some black person who works for some white political organization or what have you. In other words, you're somebody who you know what side your bread's buttered on and you know what answer you better give, and you better not question or impugn or discredit or discount the white supremacist propaganda. You better say that it's all good and you better say exactly what they expect you to say. You don't get to have some bought and paid for bootlick Negro who falsely claims that the black community supports Biden or that Biden's propaganda is going to sway us. The black community likes this or the black community doesn't like that. For a while, it seemed the white media gave these mouthpieces fiat. Seemed they thought that they were getting away with it. It didn't matter what black people really thought. You just bring on one of your bought and paid for black mouthpieces and he or she will go ahead and say, Donald Trump is this or the Republicans are that and black folks better be scared and we can't afford to sit this one out in this ad. We know the black folks are skeptical, but this ad solves all of that and these niggers, you guys are going to get in line now and Joe Biden has solved the problem and there's nothing for you to do except for go out and vote. You see, in the past, it didn't matter what black folks said. It didn't matter what black folks thought. You could just put on the same old TV show, the same old rinse and repeat routine. We're going to show you some white Democrats saying that black folks, this is something, we're going to speak to you niggers concerned, and we're going to bring on a black person to say they sure did, and black folks is so grateful for this. And you niggers, you're going to say you're grateful too, you're going to go along with the okie doke. And anything outside of that is extremist and fringe, and it's a bunch of kooks and lunatics, and especially if it comes from those angry black people online. If they start talking about punishing the police, don't you know you need the police? You need these white violent thugs. Anyone who disagrees with that, these guys, we're just gonna go ahead and give them the Fox News treatment. Yeah, isn't it interesting how CNN and MSNBC sound exactly like Fox News? When it comes time to talk about punishing the police, all of a sudden, your white liberal pals, they start sounding exactly like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and the rest of the clavern over at Fox News. You don't get to get out here and claim that you're speaking for us. This is part of our mission to delegitimize these black mouthpieces for white supremacy, to delegitimize them. These preachers, these pork chop preachers and these pulpit pimps and these bootlicking scumbags that they got on cable TV, our job is to delegitimize them. Oh, they can talk all right, sure, but no one's going to be listening. And that's what they found out. Where did all those young black voters go to? They're over here with us. And they're not listening to you. Hey, where's Goldie Taylor at these days? Maybe somebody should put her face on a milk carton or something so we can try to figure out where she's disappeared off to. Anybody heard from Melissa Harris, Lacewell, Round the World in 80 Days, Von Stupenberg, Perry Harris? Anybody heard from her recently? Me neither. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this next part because it doesn't deserve much time because it's not very relevant at all. It's only relevant to the extent that it has anything to do with the black media, but nothing as far as the black bootlicks are concerned. And I also am not going to spend much time dwelling on this because, to be bluntly honest, black people have picked up some bad habits, and one of them happens to be a predisposition toward beefing and pointless squabbling and such. And I am not going to be encouraging some of our lower, worst instincts. So we're not going to be spending a lot of time on what happened yesterday, but we will go over it briefly so that you guys can understand the black bootlicks know who we are. They've known who we are for a long damn time. Now, let me point out from the outset that I'm going to be listing these Twitter tweets as close to chronological order as possible, but the truth of the matter is I'm just trying to get across the essence of what happened. So if you really need to obsess over perfect chronological order, you can go through the Twitter feed. That's fine. But sorry, the individual involved and the circumstances of the subject matter don't rise to the level of importance for me to agonize over it. Just ain't that important. Now, yesterday I decided that to go ahead and let black folks know, yes, I did see the stupid ad that MSNBC gave free airtime to. And yeah, I was aware of it, and yes, I saw that they had some predictable black bootlick giving it thumbs up and having orgasms about it. And that's what I posted, just to let you guys know that crap was out there. Quote, I don't know what's more pathetic, having a bigot like Mika Brzezinski pretending to care about black people, or having a worthless tool like Dr. Jason Johnson pretending to have orgasms over it. And these clowns think black people will just eat this up. Now, when I posted that was about 6:45 a.m., so about 6:45. Well, apparently, the bootlick in question, Mr. Jason Johnson, he must have, I guess while he was busy having his daily breakfast of butter biscuits with a side of slime ball syrup, he decided to respond. Now, keep in mind, I didn't say call him out. It's just a matter of the simple putting someone's tag, putting someone's Twitter handle is not the same as saying, come and have a convo with me. I've never reached out to this guy before. Don't give a damn about him. Not going to care about him after this. But apparently he couldn't contain himself anymore because this guy, he's already proffered his worthless opinions before. But this time he decided he was going to come directly at me. So he decided to respond. You still getting free content off my work? Fool, nobody talks about you. Hell, even the white media barely talks about you. What the hell is he saying? All the butter and margarine and cholesterol in those butter biscuits are clogging the veins and arteries to what passes for his brain. But then he finishes up by saying, when you finally have the backbone to reveal yourself, maybe we can talk. Fool, I don't get paid off of television appearances on white cable news. You depend on white power for every crumb of your daily bread. You depend on those appearance fees. I don't. I'm talking to the black grassroots. I'm talking to my people. I'm not trying to figure out how to get some facelift having racist like Mika Brzezinski to give me an appearance fee to be on her little sideshow. So you see, that's the difference between how the black media and the black bootlicks are motivated. We're motivated by what's going to empower our people. We're not trying to get YouTube famous or trying to get on television so we can hopefully have somebody give us a book deal and then we can have Mika Brzezinski have us on the show so we can pimp our latest do nothing book. That's the little hustle that Michael Eric Dyson's been running. And the rest of these black bootlegs, you can have a book. Malcolm Nance is on and he's got a book. Malcolm Nance, there's another gem. He'll probably be remembered as the first person in human history to have written more books than he's read. But that's what Jason Johnson did. He decided he was going to take a shot at me. You still getting free content off my work. I can literally name on one finger the number of times prior to this that I have mentioned him. You're not relevant. Just because you're on TV means nothing. I reach more people than you do. And what we've shown is, especially as an individual and certainly as an aggregate, the black media reaches a lot more black folks than Jason Johnson does. We're relevant. He's not. That's why he came party crashing into my Twitter timeline, and I have never gone on his. So after he did that, I decided, let's go ahead and just shut you down early. So what I did was I responded to him by saying, well, Dr. Jason Johnson, I would love to have a face-to-face conversation with you. Only I'm afraid your mother, who has been affiliated with the FBI and the police for many years, might snitch me out. You can't fight police brutality when you're supporting it, brother. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Apparently, he thought people forgot that, hey, this dude comes from a family of police and FBI partners. Tell me something. If Dr. Johnson's mother is chummy and palling around with the FBI and local police, if she's a partner, does that mean that she talks to the police about things that she sees and hears in the black community? Because if that's the kind of partnership she's doing, where she's talking to the police and telling them things and giving information about the black community, well, it sounds to me like police partner is more like a police informant. I mean, that's just how it sounds. That's all. And if this guy's mother, the woman who raised him, if she's palling around with both the FBI and the police, well, that explains why it is that you don't see old Jason Johnson going in on the police. After all, I guess that would make dinner conversation with mom a little bit awkward now, wouldn't it? I guess he wants us to think that the woman who gave birth to him and raised him, just because she's running around with them people. Don't cast any aspersions on Jason Johnson, though. Just because he doesn't say anything about the police and he doesn't go in on them and he doesn't demand punishment and he's all mealy-mouthed and equivocal about it, well, that doesn't mean anything. His mother shouldn't be brought into the conversation. I wouldn't have brought his mother into the conversation, except for the fact that this is the woman who gave birth to him, and I'm sitting here wondering why it is that every time you see Jason Johnson, he's always trying to talk around the issue and tiptoe around it and never comes up the middle. Could it be because he's terrified of offending some of the police partners in his family? This is important because black folks are being murdered. While Mike Barr, who is currently over the FBI these days, without even an investigation, he's already signing off that Jacob Blake was committing a crime when he wasn't. He's telling lies, bald-faced lies. Just out of curiosity, Jason Johnson, does his mother have any information she'd like to share? I mean, she's all close with the FBI like that. This matters because this is how the white media knows they can trust you. They ain't going to bring you on unless they think, hey, you're already on the team. And this is how Jason Johnson establishes his bona fides. This is how he establishes his political reliability. He's got police and FBI informants, partners in his family. Hell, we ain't talking about a spouse. We ain't talking about a sibling. We're talking about a dude's mother here. And he apparently felt that was somehow, you shouldn't say that. Why, you should not say that at all. You should not have said that was just wrong of you to say. I decided to give a response that hopefully would shut this guy up because of the fact that he's not saying anything. I responded, notice that Dr. Jason Johnson doesn't actually respond to what I said, that his praising Biden's ad was merely giving phony praise to Biden's empty words. Instead, he wants to talk to me. Fine, and he can bring his mother, the FBI and police partner, along to record it all. See, that's the thing. If he wants to talk about what I actually said, if he wants to talk about Biden's ad and his feckless defense of it, fine. If he feels that, hey, you mentioned my mother and that's out of bounds, fine then. Let's leave mom out of the conversation. I hope the FBI and the police do too, but let's leave his mother out of the conversation. Fine. Let's talk about Biden's ad, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't talk about the ad at all. He doesn't want to talk about it. What does he want to do? He wants to talk to me for what? And by the way, I think it bears noting, this is what happened when Mira Sorvino popped up in my Twitter feed. She apparently had some issue with some of the stuff that I was saying about her comments regarding Bill Cosby. And when she popped up, these people are trying to figure out how can they have some sort of personal off-the-record chat. Folks, the black media, that's not how we operate. It's a matter of when you got somebody who apparently is saying something that is of import to the black polity, you're getting on white mass media and saying something, then you say, oh, but we're talking about Professor Truth. Let's speak behind closed doors. I don't think so. When it comes to people who are in the white media's broadcast airwaves and getting print and such, and they're saying stuff that's basically affecting black people constantly, I don't make it a habit to decide that, well, I'd like to talk to this person personally where nobody knows what's being said. No, forget that. If you got something to say about black people or to black people, you should be eager to speak to us. When somebody decides that they're going to be talking around us and you're talking to the black media, but you're not going to talk to the black grassroots, that's a problem for me. I am not here to try to be some sort of online celebrity. That's the reason why, unlike Jason Johnson, you don't see me put my face out there. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm trying to promote my people's interests. I'm trying to promote my people's power. And that being the case, if you got somebody who has something to say it to the people. That's what this is about. I am saying what the black grassroots, what the black street has always said. So what the hell are you trying to talk to me for? See, that's co-opting 101. What they're doing is they're feeling you out. They're trying to figure out, hey, if I tell you I want to talk to you private, is your nose open? Do you think you spy an opportunity? What opportunity are you going to get from Jason Johnson? So I can sit there like a potted plant while Mika the racist bigot Brzezinski tries to tell me to vote for Joe the bigot Jim Crow Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? What kind of opportunity is that? But that's what Jason Johnson's on. You notice that after my initial tweet, where I pointed out that this guy is talking about Biden's ad, but never actually gives us anything good about it. Notice that he never actually defends it. He never actually says anything about the ad. Instead, he's coming at me and he's trying to make this ad hominem attacks on me. He doesn't talk about the freaking ad, which, if you hear him tell it, apparently that's what started this whole thing. Funny how he never says anything about it afterwards, doesn't it? So that lets you know what this is really about. This is about a black bootlick, but the thing with Jason Johnson is this guy here, he understands that as one of the black mouthpieces for white supremacy, his viability, his economic viability rests entirely on whether or not he can get the black grassroots to listen to him. We have been damaging their credibility by pointing out the fact that these guys are saying all sorts of nonsense. We point out what the duplicity is. We point out what the weasel words are. We point out that this is not what black people actually believe. This guy does not speak where black people stand. This is the reason why they don't have any of the folks from the new Voices of Black Media on their airways, because they know they don't want this to happen in front of their viewers, in the eyes of their own viewers. So this is just a microcosm of what the white media's fears and phobias are, because that's how you become a black bootlick for the white media. You got to prove to them that you have the exact same interests they do, that you have the same mindset and mentality they do, and you also have the same fears and phobias that they do. You're on the same wavelength. So Jason Johnson's insecurities and inferiorities where the black media is concerned, you better believe they're the exact same inferiorities and insecurities of the white media types that he depends on for money. He then decides that he's going to post. And by the way, this is not even all of the posts that he did. This dude was trolling me all freaking morning. So one of his many tweets to me was, "I give you free content all the time for your show, so no freebies on Twitter. You know how to get in touch with me. You can speak to me directly or keep hiding. P.S. I know who you are. Just wondering if you're brave enough to speak to me." Now, first of all, this guy tells you exactly what the hell it is he's on. Once again, he has this garbage about free content. I never talk about this idiot. He gets a passing mention, maybe. See, this is one of the things I told you about. These guys, these clowns that you see, these black bootlicks, they know they're irrelevant, so they're constantly on Google trying to figure out whenever anyone mentions them. They're a bunch of narcissistic nobodies, so they're constantly having their Google set up to alert them whenever anyone mentions their names. So freaking vapid, so empty, so irrelevant. Nobody talks about this fool, so he's desperate for any time when somebody does. Nobody talks about him. As far as Professor Black Truth, I might have mentioned this idiot once, maybe twice maximum, but it's a matter of, dude, you'll see more polar bears in Arizona than you will times when Professor Truth has mentioned Jason Johnson by name. So what the hell is he talking about? Nothing. He's irrelevant, so he's trying to troll the people who are. He's trying to start some online beefing. Same thing with Roly-Poly Martin. There's another idiot who clearly has Google set up to alert him whenever someone mentions his name. And talking about, you know how to get in touch with me. I know who you are. Let me tell you something, Jason Johnson. Black folks who are actually about the work, these are not black folks who you're ever going to be seeing trying to get on a TV show or get a segment. You need to save that for the fraud. You need to save that for the synthetic G's. You need to save that for the Roly-Poly Martins. They're the ones who are trying to parlay some YouTube beefing or some online man bites dog attention whoring into something, hopefully with some white media company on television. The black folks who are doing the work, this is not about us. We're not trying to promote ourselves. We're trying to promote the movement. That's why we've been successful. That's why we have been effective and you haven't. I replied, "You came to me. I don't need to argue with you. My side's winning. Your pals Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been lifelong anti-black zealots who used their offices to persecute us relentlessly. They depend on mouthpieces like you to tell us to ignore their vile records. No more." And that's exactly the response this guy needed to get. And by the way, you notice the timestamp on there, 11 o'clock and such. Professor Truth is busy doing a hell of a lot of things. I'm not about to be sitting here doing the Twitter back and forth thing with somebody. He may be sitting there hanging on every word, looking. This is the most attention this dude's gotten in his entire life. You can tell this is the most attention he's gotten in his life. And he's trying to get somebody to pay him more attention. That's what this is about, man. This is the kind of level of these freaking thoughts and these Instagram chumps and such that you see. This is the level of a high school child. That lets you know the mentality you're dealing with. Is this dude in middle school? Did he make it out of middle school? This is where the hell this guy's coming from. Now, it was about this time that Jason Johnson was starting to get questions, or at the very least, I guess he figured that this would be a good way to needle me. He starts blocking my followers. The people who are following me, he starts blocking them. Now this of course lets you know, the black folks who are online saying we're the ones who the Democrats are trying to get the attention of and trying to woo, trying to trick us to the polls. And we're telling you we ain't going for, all those Russian bots that Joy Reid have been talking about. Well, apparently Jason Johnson, he thinks, no, they're not Russian bots, because if they were, he wouldn't need to block them. But he started deciding that he was going to make an issue out of blocking people who follow me. This is supposed to be your black expert, by the way. This is supposed to be a black man speaking for black folks. And as soon as black folks say, hey, you're off code, you're not saying what it is that we actually believe, he blocks them. What kind of black mouthpiece is this? What kind of black spokesperson is this? But he's not a black spokesperson. He's a white media mouthpiece. So when he decided that he was going to start blocking people, I pointed out to some of my followers that this guy, this is the man who wants to talk to people. This is the guy who says he wants to talk to me. You ain't got no reason to talk to me, dude. All I do is I say what it is the black street's saying. You talk to the black street, you've spoken to me. Now keep in mind, this has been going on for hours now. This has been hours that this dude's been up here trolling and such. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, let's go ahead and see if we can put a button on this one. Let's just go ahead and bring closure to this issue. Because now that he's blocking people, that's basically a sign, to me anyway, it's a sign that, okay, this guy concedes that he's lost the argument. He concedes it because when you start doing that blockchain nonsense, there you go. You're conceding, okay, you've lost the argument. That being the case, let's go ahead and put the bookend on this and close this feculent chapter and take out the trash. So I tweeted, the white media's black mouthpieces like Dr. Jason Johnson and Joyanne Reid, etc. are irrelevant. MSNBC and CNN can give you airtime, but they can't give you legitimacy. The black people who you're attacking and blocking online are the very people you can't win elections without. #facts. Well, you can tell that apparently cut him to the bone. That obviously that went straight to his soul. You could tell. Because this strikes at the very heart of his economic interest with white supremacy. His economic concern is they need to pay me so I can be the black guy who says what all these niggers allegedly think. That's his job. Just like the Michael Eric Dysons and just like the Mark Lamont, you big dummy Hills. And, you know, that's what these guys are paid for. Their job is supposed to be the Negro who speaks for all the black folks, because all black people are monolithic. Black people are just one big nigger, just one big monolith. And why, if we get this idiot up here on MSNBC standing and smiling to Mika Brzezinski and saying, oh, Joe Biden's ad really hits the mark and it struck a chord and black folks are going to like this. This is exactly what they need to see. Why, that must be what all these niggers think. That's his job. His job is to lend his melanin to certify white supremacy's propaganda. That's his job, to sign off on it. He's given the official Negro seal of approval to whatever white supremacy is spouting right now at the moment. Now, at this point, this guy's obnoxious behavior was being noticed by some other people. Again, that's what he wanted. TBA gave a passing mention to this, saying, well, this went badly for Dr. Jason Johnson. Quickly, don't growl at the lions. They don't bark, they bite. Now, that being the case, see, this is migrated now. This guy, he decided he was going to go ahead and jump in TBA's Twitter feed. So what that lets you know is, for him, this has nothing to do really with me or really with anything other than him thinking, finally, I'm relevant. All of those young black people who have been ignoring us, I finally got their attention. Finally got their attention. That's what was going through his head. Now, this guy, then he decides that he's going to hide behind, I need some sympathy because this guy, he pointed out, this is the reason why I ain't standing up for black folks. Just so we're clear, you're championing someone who's afraid to come at me directly. He's got my info. Nobody cares about you, fool. So he goes after family. That's a real warrior. Fool, I'm pointing out to black folks that when you see these black mouthpieces on cable TV, they've already been vetted. White media's already made sure this is somebody who they've had their hooks in long ago. So they could already know this guy ain't going to go off the reservation because he ain't going to cause problems for himself or his family. And he thinks that apparently, as far as he's concerned, black people being killed by the police and his silence on the issue, he wants to call himself speaking for black people. He wants to call himself signing off on content ads that clearly have nothing to do with black people's interests, talk around our interests, that help protect white supremacy by refusing to advocate to punish white supremacy. And he thinks the fact that this guy happens to be directly the child of a police and FBI partner, he thinks that that's irrelevant to the conversation. Okay, well, is that relevant to the black folks whose families are getting killed and wondering why it is that the white media never ever actually does any sort of real investigative journalism about it? Hey, when are these white supremacists in these sheriff's departments and police departments going to have exposés run on? When's the white media going to be pointing out, hey, here's a few street gangs that have white supremacist gangs that have taken over this sheriff's department, this police department. Hey, this police chief, this sheriff, they're in the Klan. They're affiliated with these white supremacist groups. How come that never happens? How come Jason Johnson never brings it up? We're starting to see why. Now, I think I need to repeat here. Hopefully, I've gotten most of these in chronological order. But the thing is, this guy was carpet bombing these inane, asinine little brain farts all over my Twitter feed, and I was ignoring most of it. I know a lot of y'all were looking and going, how come Professor Drew didn't respond to this, didn't respond to that? Dude, stop it. He wants attention. And when it comes time to deal with a baby who's trying to get you to give him attention, you don't give him attention just because they whine and cry for it. He was told what he needed to do. You want to discuss your defense of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's indefensible ad? You want to defend that? Because he knows what the issue is. As a black person, he had no business defending that garbage. He knows exactly what the objections of the black street are. Now, if you want to talk about that, we can, but it's going to have to be for the people. We're not doing no closed door or anything. You've got my information. No, I don't, and I don't give a damn about it. That's the reason why you guys look at the timestamps going, wow, this went on for hours with this where you were basically ignoring him. Damn right I'm ignoring him. This guy ain't relevant. This guy's attention whoring benefits him. Dude, I've been out here over a decade now with a whole bunch of everything from thoughts to Instagram idiots to a bunch of would-be, wannabe panelists on cable TV, all trying to figure out how they can get me to help them boost their profile. This has been a battle for the collective minds of the former slaves. You are the guys who we've all been fighting over, and you now begin to see what a valuable prize you guys are. Because of the fact that whatever direction the former slaves go, so goes the nation. And the former slaves are said to hell with that ballot box, and you see what's happened. So please don't think that Jason Johnson is out here on his own initiative. This guy has no initiative. His white paymasters give him orders, and he follows those orders. So please don't think that he did this all on his own. Nah, he didn't do that. What happened was he's trying to figure out how to regain whatever illusion of relevance he thought he had. He knows the black street, especially black young folks, ain't listening to him. And he's trying to figure out, how do I get them back? Spoiler, you don't. Now, part of his ongoing harassment, and this is just one of a number of tweets that he did like this, when I was pointing out to people, hey, this guy's blocking folks, and obviously this is not somebody who's coming here to learn, because God knows he has a lot to learn. Instead, this is someone who's trying to reassert that he's going to be the Negro Wrangler. He's going to be the head nigga in charge, and we're going to listen to him, which is what this is really about. You have an irrelevant chucklehead trying to do some half-assed version of establishing dominance with the black grassroots, and he's seeing it don't work like that. So in response to that, he says, I said get at me 6 tweets ago. Ooh, he's sounding all bold, ain't he? I said get at me 6 tweets ago. Now look at that, 6 tweets ago. God dang, ain't you got something better to do with your time? Nope. I'm talking to you. Not your minions. You know how. Now you're just coming up with excuses. Oh boy. Now look at this. Family, this tells you everything you need to know about what the hell was going on yesterday. This is just one of the white media's black bootlicks. There have been others. Please don't think he's the only one. We've been telling you just about a few of them. The Bakari sellouts. And the Monique Presleys, and these guys, they see the black grassroots. This is the reason why these guys are desperate to try to get your attention. This is what it's about. They're trying to figure out how to get you guys to pay attention to them again, because you're not listening to them. You ain't looking at them. You're paying them no never mind. They have lost the collective mind of the young black audience. They're not relevant at all. The white media can put you on the air, but what they cannot do is put you on black folks' minds, not the way that you want. So this guy's been spending all freaking day calling me out. I want to talk to you. No, you don't. You don't want to talk to me. This is a pathetic attempt at reclaiming relevance. Relevance that you never had. So what I decided to do was, let's call this guy's bluff, because he's not serious. This is the same thing that happened with some other folks. It's a matter of, if this guy, I'm not going to do what it is that he wants. What he wants is some sort of private whatever so that he can sit there and spout his gibberish. It's a matter of, dude, if you've been out here tearing your behind in public, you are clearly trying to figure out how to gain relevance. And that being the case, I'm not going to help you do that. So my response was, Dr. Jason Johnson, if you actually think you can defend Biden-Harris, we'll be broadcasting tonight at 7 p.m. Central. Drop your number in my DM and you'll be put on live when you call. If not, then stop wasting my time and stop bothering my followers. Now, as you guys saw, he still had a couple of brain farts after this, well into the afternoon, but the thing to remember is he was told what he had to do. By the way, the whole thing about the number, do you know how many people call in to a Jason Black or a Tariq Nasheed when they're on? You're sitting here trying to talk to the people and you got 30 to 40 to 50 folks in a call queue. Ain't nobody going to play Indiana Jones trying to figure out which one might be some idiot who was on cable TV this morning. It's real simple. The point of the matter is, I want him to defend the indefensible. This whole thing started with him deciding he was going to clap like a trained seal for Joe Biden's ad. Does he want to defend that? No, he didn't want to say a word about it. Well, that being the case, that we ain't got nothing to talk about. Talk to me for what? You're not going to sit here and white-splain away. It ain't going to happen. You want to talk to the people? Then that's more than welcome. But I don't do any sort of closed door behind the scenes. No, forget about all that. But this is a guy who's supposed to be calling himself a black expert. He's the person who the white media puts on. He's going to say what the little niggers think. And this is what he does. By the way, even Mira Sorvino, a white woman who has no connection to the black community, even she had better manners than to be chain blocking people just because. Even she had better manners than that. But then again, Mira Sorvino does not purport that she's a mouthpiece for the black community. She doesn't purport to be any sort of representative for us. Jason Johnson does. They bring him on to be their Negro wrangler. He's going to be the Negro whisperer telling them what it is that black people think. But only if white power approves of what his alleged opinion is. So that's what I did. I put that up there. If you think you can defend this, and I made it very clear, we're not going to be doing no tongue wrestling with you about every issue under the sun. This is about the Biden-Harris ad, which he refused to say anything about. All them tweets, dude's up here just tweeting up a storm, ain't said a damn thing to defend that ad. So what does that tell you? If you want to, here it is. Be broadcasting tonight at 7. Drop your number. That way, when you call in, we'll know who the hell you are, because we're not going to be playing Indiana Jones, sifting through 50 or so callers just to try to figure out which one might be you. It's as simple as that. Now, if you want to talk, those are the terms. And by the way, considering that this guy has had nothing but a bunch of whining to do all day, you'd think he'd be looking and going, finally. Nah, but it's a matter of what he wants is a controlled environment, one that he controls. I'm looking and going, no, whatever you're saying is going to have to be out there out front for the people. If you're willing to do that, if you're willing to actually talk to the black folks who you've been ducking and dodging and evading and blocking, you know, all these black folks who you've been blocking all day long, care to talk to them because you're not going to win any elections without them. If you do, then you know what to do. If not, then this conversation's over. By the way, after that, he had nothing left to say. Not to me anyway. Now that was the end of it. What happened was, and as Jason Black posted on his Twitter feed, called your bluff. You see, that's what happens when you're the black media. We don't do this thing where we're going around the world and it just becomes this big thing. No, it's real simple. You call yourself bombing into my Twitter feed, I'm going to shut you down quick. I'm going to point out, hey, look at this guy. He's the son of a police informant. A police partner. And when you refuse to shut up, I'm going to point out, hey, look at this guy. This is supposed to be a black expert. He's supposed to be speaking for the black folks, but he's blocking every black person who asks him a question. Oh, he wants to talk to me. You can talk to the black grassroots, as long as everyone can hear the conversation that we're having. He ought to be used to that. After all, his mother's an FBI informant. FBI agent. Police informant. Police partner. And that being the case, he ought to be used to the idea of everybody, or at least a group of folks, hearing what's said. Nah, but that's the problem. See, the whole problem is he's used to the conversation only being privy to a select few. When it comes to the black media, if this guy wants to defend the Biden ad, which is the only thing that we would talk about, if he tries to talk about anything else, I'm not inclined to talk to him about anything else. You're trying to be a black person lending your melanin to some left-wing white supremacist propaganda, and I ain't having it. Now, if you want to give an accounting of yourself, then you can do so in front of the very black polity that you were deliberately misrepresenting. If not, then we got nothing to talk about. And you see what happened. After that, he scurried away. That was the end of him. But keep in mind, this guy is not exceptional in this regard. This is what the white media's black bootlicks are all about. This is the reason why these guys run scared. Now think about that. You would have an easier time getting a dyed-in-the-wool white supremacist like Jared Taylor or Richard Spencer to give an accounting of themselves. You saw what happened. Jason did his documentary Race War. He got some of the top white supremacists on the planet. They said, well, we know we're going to get that work. We know what we're walking into, but you know what? If it wasn't you, it'd probably be some other member of the black media, so let's get this over with. He was able to actually talk with top white supremacists, but these black mouthpieces, they're like, oh no. And the reason why is Richard Spencer does not lose his relevance or his legitimacy to the alt-right just because he gets schooled by the black media. He does not lose any sort of economic opportunities. Robert Mercer's not going to stop floating money to the alt-right. William Regnery, who is the direct patron of Richard Spencer, he's not going to stop floating that guy money just because he gets spanked on a documentary. That's not going to hurt Richard Spencer's economic prospects with his white supremacist paymasters. His patrons are not going to cut him off for that. So his ego will get bruised, but it's nothing that he wasn't already prepared for. He's full of crap. He knows he's full of crap. So Richard Spencer, he understands that there's no penalty and no consequences for spouting his white supremacist lies. Because the audience that he's trying to wrangle and hold on to and to lead around, it ain't the black community. His job is not to get on TV and show that he can corral the little Negroes with some soft words and lies. So I hope you guys are understanding this. This is the game that's being played. White supremacy understands that in order for it to be successful for the long haul, you can't rely on having just one group of controlled opposition. You're going to need a number of them. And now you've identified who one of them are. It's not new, but it's just a matter of, there you go. As the pressure is being put on, as the black grassroots are getting black folks to stand in their own power and to stand for their own interest and no one else's, and we're not going to have anyone dictate to us what those interests are. Nobody's going to be doing that mess. That game is at an end. Now what you're seeing is these black bootlicks, look at how combative they are. He knows damn well that the very people that he's insulting, these are the folks who his white paymasters are telling him, you better find a way to get their attention, buddy. And look at him. He's just as disrespectful as Roly-Poly. Roly-Poly comes out cursing and throwing insults and putting down young black voters and saying they ain't going to vote. They irrelevant. They ain't going to be sitting on their asses. They ain't going to do nothing. And then what happens is now he's trying to turn around. He's trying to turn that around and do a 180, but it ain't working. And Jason Johnson's doing the same thing. These people who you see on television, these people have always known that we're here. And they have nothing but contempt for you and me. They look at us as being nothing more than two-legged bovine. Our job is to be shuffled around as white supremacy sees fit, so that Jason Johnson or the next black person who you see on this segment on CNN or MSNBC can justify their appearance fee and show white power. See, when I speak, these Negroes, they're going, see, I'm contributing to white power. I give authority to this stuff. It ain't working. And they don't have an answer for that. Jason Johnson had every opportunity to defend that ad while he was Twitter bombing me all yesterday. He had every opportunity to defend it, and he didn't. Instead, what he does is he tries to play the victim. He does not actually speak about what he did wrong. He does not say, well, what is it that you guys are taking offense at? Notice he didn't ask that. He didn't have to. He knew exactly what he had done. And when it came time for him to have to answer for these offenses, all of a sudden he ain't saying nothing. There you go. Insulting people, calling black people who are demanding their tangibles and demanding the police be punished, calling them minions and insulting them and blocking them. This is who white media likes to have on. This is the kind of person they like to have on. Now, if this is what Jason Johnson does publicly on Twitter where everyone can see it, what do you think he's saying and doing behind closed doors? You know, when he has some direct messages in a private chat with somebody like he was trying to have with me yesterday. What do you think he would do and say when he doesn't have to actually talk to you? When he doesn't have himself out there where everyone can see it? What do you think he does in private? Do you think that he's more respectful of all these black people that he's calling minions and blocking and insulting? You think he's more respectful of you behind closed doors, or do you think that he's less respectful? This is who the white media has. This is who they've always had. He didn't just become like this. Well, actually, he did just become this belligerent about it because of the fact that he understands this is where the young black folks are at. We're the ones who have made him irrelevant. The fight for all of these young black minds is being won. That's the reason why when I tweeted to him, I said, I don't have to argue with you. Why should I? My side's winning. And who is my side? My side's the former slaves. My side's the descendant of American slaves, the foundational black Americans, the people who built this country. Not some police and FBI informants, partners. My side is black empowerment, the black grassroots, the black street. The people who he maligns and insults and condescends to and blocks and attacks. That's my side. And we're the ones winning. That's the reason why Jason Johnson had to jump into my Twitter feed, and you'll never see me jumping in his. Ain't a damn thing going on over there in that pigsty that I would want to be part of. He's irrelevant. Who is he talking to? He's trying to figure out how to get a book deal. He's trying to figure out how he can get an appearance fee. Can I get somebody to give me a fee to lecture at their school and blow some hot air for 90 minutes? That's what he's trying to do. I'm trying to figure out how to change the political profile of this nation and the world. I'm trying to figure out how to put black people, how to put my people in the driver's seat. You will never see me politely holding court with Mika the Bigot Brzezinski or even the rest of those watered-down white supremacists on MSNBC or CNN. You'll never see me over there making chummy and nice with them, smiling like an idiot. You'll never see me giving cop Mala Harris a pass for her 30 years of relentless crimes against black people. 30 years of overlooking, if not outright defending police anti-black violence. All of those white supremacist gangs in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, they didn't just pop up the last few years. They were there when Kamala Harris was an assistant DA in Alameda County, when she became DA in San Francisco County, when she became Attorney General of California. They were there then. They were already there. Hell, the Linwood Vikings, those guys, you can go all the way back to the freaking 70s with them. People were talking about them and their white supremacy in the 70s. So Kamala Harris, this is not something that just popped up, but she spent 30 years. If she wasn't overlooking it, she was defending them. And Joe Biden, you will never see me overlooking his 50 years of anti-black racism. You'll never see me doing that. You damn sure won't see me praising any of his propaganda. No, this is not the time to decide if you can bamboozle black folks. This is the time of judgment. This is the time of tangibles. The white media may be able to put you on for 5 minutes, but what you're finding out is, yeah, you're talking, brother, but ain't nobody listening. And what he's finding out is the black media defines who these black bootlicks are. We're the ones who define who these mouthpieces for white supremacy are. They don't define themselves. We already know who you are. We know what you're about. We know who you work for, and we know whose interests you're operating in, and it's not ours. And that's why ain't nobody listening to you. So while you try and fail to get something resembling relevance back, just keep in mind, you have now done a hell of a lot more. Jason Johnson, you and the rest of them black bootlicks who I know are listening to this, because you guys, when one of you comes under threat, you all get scared, your knees start knocking, and your freaking teeth start chattering. So let me go ahead and give you something else to be anxious about. You have done more to help drive away even more young black people than I could have done in the next month or so, or the next few months. Because now that they have seen, here's an example of one of them black folks on TV. When somebody points out, hey, look at how this guy, he's up here getting all happy about an ad that says absolutely nothing from a couple of people who have decades long, 80 years between them. Between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, that's 80 years of anti-black racism between the two. And here these two individuals are, after they've been waging 80 years between them, a combined war against black people. Now, here they are pretending that, we should be talking about police accountability and police reform, and the same old empty nothing. They don't come to us and say that. They don't come to the black grassroots and say, hey, what is it you guys want us to do? Now they're like, nah, they already know what we want. And they said no. Or in Kamala's case, she said no. And Jason Johnson's here to justify and explain to you why you shouldn't be demanding anything. Yeah, they're lying to you. Just go ahead and vote for them. No, they're selling you the same old soap and they're going to do nothing for you. And that's why you should vote for them. 'Cause I said so. And if you don't, you're just a minion. Oh, there's a minion here, all right. Jason Johnson, there's a minion who's been doing the bidding of some shadowy entities in the shadows, hiding in the background, who don't dare show their faces. But it's not my followers. And I'm not the person whose lack of visibility is the threat here. The lack of visibility happens to be your white paymasters. Who the hell are they? See, those are the individuals who never step out of the shadows, whose names we don't know. You damn sure ain't saying them. And the minion who's doing their bidding is you. And that's the reason why you had to do that desperate stunt that you did yesterday. Family, do not ever discount the power of black people being organized and united. If you want to know, if you want just more confirmation that what we do here is having the intended effect, that you are the prize that the white media has been trying to get their hands on, you guys should be proud when these fools are sitting here blocking you. What that means is they're throwing in the towel and admitting we can't control them. We can't control them. That's what they're doing. When Rahm Emanuel was giving his little speech to CNBC saying we're going to be shifting to try to get those white Republican moderates, what they're saying is we have thrown in the towel. This is a formal declaration of failure. These young black voters, we have to just accept the fact that we lost them. They've wised up. Someone has smartened them up. And now they're making demands that we're not about to do. They're making real demands challenging white privilege and white primacy and white power. And we ain't about to go along with that. We're not going to reinforce that. So we're going to see if we can ignore them. We'll go down in flames before we do anything that's going to undermine white supremacy. That's what Rahm Emanuel was saying. And he happens to be one of the campaign advisors to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And they're all on the same page, as are the black bootlicks. We're not doing anything for black people. And if you niggers show us that you're not going to be going along with the okie doke, then we'll block you. We'll try to ignore you because we can't control you. And you know what? This is good. You need to see how these guys actually view you. As the old saying goes, adversity does not build character, it reveals it. And we are giving the white supremacists and their black bootlicks maximum resistance, maximum adversity. And they're cracking under the strain. And it don't take much imagination to figure out they're cracking right now. They'll be crushed tomorrow. Jason Johnson knows how this ends. The white media seeing that, hey, these black folks online are looking at you and go, we don't need you. Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you? Yeah, you better be sticking with whatever university gig that you got until they decide, heck, we're going to put you sweeping floors or something, buddy. Teaching class, we didn't give you that dang degree so that you could be sitting here calling yourself, wagging your finger at us and pretending to be a hot shot. We gave it to you so you could mislead these niggers, and hopefully your degree would give you some prestige. And they don't even respect that. And what the hell do we need you here for? That's where he knows this goes. That's where he knows this ends. Roly-Poly's been out there in the wilderness trying to figure out how much pale behinds he's got to kiss in order to get back on cable TV, to get himself a cable TV gig. And they're already letting Joy Reid know, hey, the only reason we gave you that show is because you're supposed to be our high-profile Negro wrangler. And with this latest little Muslim kerfluffle, that's just them letting her know, that's the warning signs, hey, when it comes time to get rid of you, you better believe we'll be justifying it. Joy Reid has lost her show today after a series of scandals involving her maligning LGBT people on her blog and then claiming it was the Russians who hacked it. And other comments about Muslims. This network has had to sever ties, and they'll make sure when it comes time to get rid of her, they're going to mention that. They're going to make sure to mention that. So they've already figured out exactly how to get rid of Joy Reid when the time comes. When she proves again later this year that no, ain't no black folks listening to her. The casual racist may like her, but nobody else does. Because they know that Joy Reid's not going to say anything that's against their interests. They're fine with that, but the black grassroots, the young black folks whose votes you need, they don't like it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out now, family. Just understand, these are the people who for the longest time have been pretending as if they don't know who we are and never heard of us. I've been telling you the whole time, of course these people see us. You don't see everything that we see, nor do you need to, because a lot of black folks, they kind of get distracted and some idiots on television. So all of a sudden, as far as they're concerned, ooh, I want this person to say something to. No, you don't. You're in the driver's seat as long as you understand these guys are irrelevant. They're not even passengers in the car. They're just hitchhikers on the side of the road who we have left in our dust. And that's precisely where irrelevant bootlicks belong.